Welcome back, folks, to another edition of the Three Man Weave College Basketball Show presented by SportsBookReview.com. A lovely Tuesday morning. The 2020 years behind us, but those quirks of the scheduling still remain. Got a good card for you folks to talk about today, including 6 of those back-to-backs, mostly on the extra board. We will get to those and then chat mob discussion and a teaser for tomorrow's show. Stay tuned. The chat mob, yes, you will have your own section in the handy-dandy outline just to the right of the screen. So, you've done such good work with participating, the questions, the insights. We've decided to reward you to give back. And that's what we do in this program. We try to give back to the listeners, the followers. Ky, Jim, let's go to you guys for some takeaways from last night. Mr. Root, we'll start with you first. What did you learn?
Matt, it was kind of a favorite fiesta last night.
It was.
I'm looking at the KenPom fan match page from last night. Top 6 games. All of the favorites: West Virginia, Indiana, San Diego State, Stanford, Siena, Fresno. And all told, they went 10-5 on the board yesterday. So pretty nice day for the favorites. I'm hoping we see a bit of a dog redemption today. We'll get to that in the slate. But, sometimes those things correct quickly.
Jim, speaking of dogs, I surrender to the Drake Bulldogs. Jiminy Christmas, guys. I think I'm done fading Drake, which I've said 100 times this season already. They're up to 12th right now in Haslametrics, one of the great analytics sites out there. They're having basically a Wofford season of 2 years ago. Yes, it's true they haven't played any big-name opponents yet outside of K-State, if you want to include that. But the way they're winning these games, the way they keep covering these spreads, 11-0 now against the spread, is just ridiculous. So I would like to wave the white flag and say, I surrender to you, Drake, my overlords.
Yeah, I tweeted last night that Drake went 24-7 against the spread 2 years ago under DeVries. So it's not like it's totally anomalous that he would completely blow away expectations. Last year, they didn't quite get there, but they had some weird things going on last year. Trimble Murphy preseason had like a gun charge. Yeah. So it didn't quite have the same flow yet last year, but he's just an awesome coach. They run a beautiful system. They're knocking down shots like crazy right now, which may not sustain, but it's, you don't really want to get in front of that freight train at this point. Sadly, they got Loyola Chicago this weekend, though, so we'll see.
Right. I know. The fact that they could be favored against Loyola Chicago is mind-boggling, but that's where we are right now. I just want to highlight a slightly smaller mini wagon, Jim. We talk about Drake, more of a mid-major dominant, more of a low to mid-major Winthrop. We've mentioned them before, but I just want to reiterate how good this team's been. They're 7-1 against the number this year, covering by an average of 7 points a game. Only Drake and Bryant, one of our other pet teams, have been better against the spread this season. Pat Kelsey just shows no mercy. They play 11 deep. Just the sheer variety of the player types, prototypes I have on the roster is so fun. You have DJ Behemoth Burns throwing his weight around inside. You got Chandler Vaudrin doing his best Jason Kidd impression. You got Russell Jones, little 5'8" maestro. It's a fun team to watch, and it's a really good favorite. It's a team that's not going to be as protruded by these back-to-backs with just the depth that they have. It's just hard for them to take the gas off, their foot off the gas. So do not be looking to fade Winthrop. You find a good spot to take them. I think they're just a great bet. But anyway, to Drake and Winthrop, they are added to our special list of auto bet or do not touch. Before we get into the actual outline here, just a few plugs. SPRodds.com, which we'll be alluding to all throughout the show. Line value is king. We will be a broken record saying that for the rest of time. SPRpicks.com/NCAAB. It's right above me, right there. Just click on it. Go there. Hit like, hit subscribe. Check out all the great content from not just us, from everyone else at the SPR family. All right, it's time to talk hoop. And how fitting for us to start off this program with Florida at Alabama, the Florida-Bama showdown. There's more drama in that show than there is with Jim and Nate Oates. Their relationship has been sort of its own real-life soap opera here on this program. Jim, I just need you to go. I need you to clarify for listeners. Are you and Mr. Oates an item again, or where do we stand in this whole saga?
We're talking again. There's some flirtation. I was very impressed with his tide on the road at Tennessee. What a performance, honestly. And I think the thing that really stood out was they played fantastic defense. And Florida, the last 2 games, has beaten up on the 2 worst defenses in the SEC. That's LSU and Vanderbilt, just completely feasted inside. Alabama has shown a lot more resistance than that. And, it seems like they're starting to play that style. The team's starting to come together. They did have a decent amount of turnover on the roster from last year to this year. So I have raised Alabama back up to my preseason rating. I am on them today. Alabama is my best bet. I'm all in.
Boom.
I'm all in, baby.
Wow.
Come on back, Nate Oates. I'm worried about the letdown spot. Oof. I'm worried about the letdown spot, but I like the number. I like the matchup. Florida hasn't had to play a good defense yet, and I think Alabama can stand up to them. Let's go Tide.
If I can play devil's advocate, I respect your Alabama love here. Florida has been pretty good without Keontae Johnson so far. 2-0 against the spread. The LSU one especially was impressive. Got up 10 late. Anthony DeRuggi, he's been a godsend for them in Johnson's absence. Louisiana Tech transfer, averaging almost 14 a game. And then all of a sudden, Colin Castleton, a Michigan transfer who barely saw the floor for the Wolverines, is averaging 22 in his last two. That's crazy to me, Jim. I tend to agree Alabama snuffs that out versus the last two opponents they've played. And Alabama themselves has been sort of a wrecking ball lately with the Ole Miss and Tennessee wins. So I could certainly be too low on Alabama still. I might need to raise them back up as you have done. But my number leads towards Florida in this one, which I'm a little scared of, Jim. And that's why I'm staying away, because you're so confident in Alabama.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. I'm all in, Ky. You better watch out.
I'm going to be Maddie Leans today. I have very few actual bets, but and this is actually one of the few games I don't have a lean on either. I think Jim and Ky both hashed out both sides of the coin effectively. I have nothing further to add. I think it should be a fun game. Two SEC teams that like to get up and down. I hope the pace gets going so we see some points scored. Yeah. The total is high though, 100 or 153. I don't think the over is in play there. Next game, Big Ten, Rutgers at Michigan State. Ky, I'll go to you this one. There's two ways to look at this matchup here. You can look at it from one angle and say Michigan State is so due for a bounce back. They're an ultimate buy low candidate. They're catching a short-handed Rutgers team that's been playing, coming off multiple really strong efforts. Conversely, you could say Rutgers is just better. Michigan State's looked atrocious, and so you're getting the better team here in a deflated home court spot with essentially a pick'em game. And it looks like the early money sides with that notion. Where do you stand?
Yeah, you basically hit the nail on the head. This would be the perfect game to prove Sparty is good again, right? A get-right game. They're 1-3 in the Big Ten, could certainly use the win. But, Matt, I just think Rutgers is scary good, man. Harper was back for that Iowa game, and they lost it in a close one, but they were up 7 with 10 minutes to play. Probably should have won that game. This team is just excellent this season, and having watched both teams a few times, Rutgers has just been clearly the better team. I think their physicality is too much for Sparty, even in a situation where Michigan State needs a desperate win, and it is Michigan State, a program that carries some name or some value on its name. I actually like Rutgers in this one, so I'm leaning towards the Knights.
Yeah, I think I'm probably going to take Rutgers as a dog here. I made them a slight favorite. Michigan State's just lost right now. I mean, as much as I want them to be like, oh, Michigan State, they're going to figure it out. I don't see why they're going to. Rocket Watts just asked to be moved off the ball, so they're going to have to play a ton of AJ Hogard at point guard, who I like, but I'm not sure he's quite ready at this point. And it really the only way I think Michigan State wins is they have to immediately get Miles Johnson into foul trouble because their collection of bigs stinks, and Michigan State and Johnson is just going to dominate the glass if he's out there. So they've got to find a way to attack him, but they don't have a Garza or somebody to go inside like Kofi Coburn to take him out, or even EJ Liddell. Ohio State was able to do that, but I don't really see Michigan State with a go-to big threat that can get him into foul trouble. So as long as he's smart, I like Rutgers here, even though it pushes Michigan State down to 1-4 in the Big Ten, which sounds crazy.
Yeah, I mean, the whole Michigan State thing, back to my initial intro, if you want to bet them as a buy low, get right spot, they've had basically 3 of those in the last 2 weeks, and they have flopped. They took care of Nebraska, but Nebraska is very fragile. I'm not putting much stock in that. There's no reason to bet on a buy low for Michigan State until you see some evidence of it first. So this is not the game to do it. Again, I'm going to stay away. One of my few stayaways. I have many leans to come. Please stay tuned, folks.
Real quick, Matt, I just want to clarify. Alabama minus 2.5 was my best, but I want to make sure I say the line. And then Rutgers plus 1.5. And hey, Michigan State still has not covered a game since at Duke on December 1st. Another sad fact for them.
Yeah, that is bad. I'm sure the Izzos will get it figured out late, but again, there's no reason to predict that too ambitiously here this early in the season, especially with the late start, the COVID stuff. So let's keep on going down the outline. To the Big East we go. Connecticut, the Huskies, the Big East's newest member, will be traveling to Jim's hometown to take on the Marquette Golden Eagles. This Husky team has been on our radar for most of the offseason. They've been flying under the radar since the year started. They had that mini COVID shutdown in mid-December. But they came right out of that and looked like a well-oiled machine. The home effort against Creighton was very impressive, in my opinion. They led most of the way, went to overtime, lost that game, followed that up with a really impressive demolition of DePaul. I think this Husky team could be for real. I am leaning hard toward Connecticut here. My number doesn't necessarily agree. Ky, I believe you're a Husky man this one. Is that correct?
Yeah, it's a strong gut lean to the Huskies. I have them small as a dog, +1, +1.5. I think there's still some even +2 out there, but they've been stellar this season. Their only loss to Creighton in overtime, certainly no harm there. A Cook might be back for the Huskies in this game. Who knows how much he can give them coming off that Achilles tear, which is a disgusting injury. And then Marquette's had sort of a rough stretch. They haven't covered the closing line in 4 straight games. They're not looking quite right anymore. It's going to be a good battle inside with solid rebounders and size on both sides of the ball. I just don't think anyone's stopping James Bouknight, though, and ultimately it's a big lean, small play towards UConn for me, Jim.
Yeah, I think the Cook thing could be huge because Marquette ran a ton of pick and pop against Georgetown with Dawson Garcia and Justin Lewis, and a Cook can actually defend in space. But if that's Whaley, he's okay at it. If it's Carlton, he's got no chance. He's a very plodding type of big man. So if they can get some minutes out of him, that's crucial. Marquette's actually already lost 3 games at home this year. So not a huge edge playing at Fiserv. It's an NBA arena. So it's, basically like a vacant lot at that point with no fans, no atmosphere. So I probably lean with you guys towards UConn. Not taking anything here, though. I made it right about what it is. Number-wise, I wish you the best of luck, Husky boys.
Yeah, hey, I'm not officially on it, Jim. I should be. I'm concerned that my only reason for having Marquette rated as highly as I do was that when at Creighton, the last 4 games since, really nothing there. They were down big to Georgetown last game. They were down big to Seton Hall early, kind of used some garbage runs late to close the margin. So I think Ky is the winner there. I would advise the followers to follow Mr. McKeon on that one. All right, we continue on. NC State at Clemson. It's pivoting to the ACC. I believe Mr. Jimbo Root has a take on this one. We have some actually internal dissension. I was leaning toward the Wolfpack. I believe Ky was as well. A couple of key injuries here on both sides. John Newen for Clemson. More importantly, Manny Bates for NC State. A really productive big guy up front. Although the way DJ Funderburg played, the Weaves' arch nemesis for multiple years, last game, maybe he's not as important as we thought. Again, just 2 things to monitor before you play a side here. Jim, tell the folks why you will be riding with the boys of Little John tonight.
Matt, I'm not, so I don't love it when you set me up for a bet I don't have. Only if Manny Bates is out will I take this game.
Okay. Well, so it's a bet with a caveat. Fair. Okay.
Well, I'm not going to add it to my slate without knowing. So
okay.
If Bates is out, I think Clemson can beat them up inside. Funderburg is nowhere near the defender that Bates is, and they're just smart, and they've got they can play against a press through Sims. He's a really good ball handler. He's a big man. They still got Honor. They still got Alamir Dawes. I think they'll be all right against pressure. I think if they can force NC State to play in the half court, which Clemson has proven they can do against teams like Alabama that want to score in transition, I think the Wolfpack really struggle to score, as most teams do against Clemson. So I would lean Clemson with, just kind of lightly right now. If Bates is out, I'll end up taking them. And that probably helps the over, too, if Bates is out. So keep an eye on that.
I like the comment. Clemson money line easy. Well, yeah, they're 5-point favorites, but I like NC State in this one, guys. If they're fully healthy, no Bates, no bet for me. But if everyone's playing for NC State and this line's come down a little bit, it seems like people sort of lean towards NC State as well.
Oh, people agree with Ky.
NC State has pesky on-ball defenders. They force turnovers. Clemson's weak point this season, if you're going to choose one weak point, has been ball handling. And that could be troublesome against an NC State team that certainly forces turnovers under Kevin Keats' system. So a slight lean towards NC State, fully healthy NC State, that is, Matthew.
Yeah, I lean toward NC State as well, just from a pure value perspective. I think this line should be closer to 3. I do think Clemson controls the pace, forces NC State to score in the half court, an area which they have struggled at times this year. They have a lot of depth, a lot of options, but I think they're better when they can get the game up and down, attack and transition, use their depth to their advantage. I'm just not sure Clemson's the right matchup, or the right style of game to dictate that. So I will officially stay away, but I will lean with my boy Ky. All right, let's pause there for a chat mob break. Do we have any inquiries coming in through the forum here? I haven't actually appointed a chat czar, so I'm hoping one of you took the initiative to do that. Jim?
We're always watching, Matthew. Don't you
always
worry.
Watching. Good.
Anthony Cook asked about Toledo Kent State. We're going to teaser that one to the end. There will be
Thank you. Good setup.
A best bet shown in that game. Before we get there, though, Jim Bean asked about Texas Tech K-State. I think Ky and I both lean towards the big favorite there. Awful loss. Texas Tech probably going to shut down that beat up, terrible K-State offense. Correct, Ky?
Yep, that's correct, Jim.
That's where I lean as well. Young guards for K-State. I think they're in for a world of hurt against the Texas Tech swarming pressure, just the length and sheer defensive vigor that they'll bring.
Another Big 12 one, The Truth, asked about Iowa State and Texas. A couple people are like, what are we missing with Texas? Isn't this obvious Texas play? Texas as a big favorite still kind of scares me. Iowa State's been really feisty as a dog. They stuck at West Virginia. They hung around against Baylor at home. So, maybe we're missing on this Iowa State team a little bit. I'd certainly lean Texas, but the situation and the way those two teams have played in this kind of spot doesn't set up that well for the Horns.
Yeah. Lean for Texas as well, Jim, but you said it right.
Early money took this game from 13.5 to 12. I actually agree with the Iowa State early. I wouldn't take it at 12, but it's a conference game. It's just conference games usually don't play to massive numbers, especially in the Big 12. So I think there's some value here on the Clones.
Yeah, Iowa State's been more confident than we thought. So, give it tip the cap to them. A couple people asked about Dayton Fordham. Obviously, Fordham has been a complete nightmare through 2 games. They've already dropped 86 spots in KenPom, which is insane. I believe my friend Mr. McKeon ranted on this very show about how ridiculous it was that they were 186 to start the year.
Yes.
And correct he was. I lean towards Dayton. I'm not going to officially take it at the number that it's currently at. They could be really shorthanded. Chapman could be out. Blakeney definitely out. They're getting a ton from this freshman Mustafa Amzil, which has basically saved their season. But I'm not sure it's enough in a super low possession, low scoring game to trust them as double-digit road favorites.
Yeah, I agree, Jim. I played Dayton small, but the slew of injuries they might have is kind of worrisome. Then I looked at the schedule and I saw Fordham. I'm like, okay, yeah, I'll keep fading Fordham for the time being.
Yeah, that's the one encouraging factor. It's Fordham.
When these two teams played last year, 59 possessions, that is super slow motion. I just think it does not sit well with me as a fan of the Dayton side. But I think if you have to play a side, the Flyers are the right one.
Yeah, hopefully they can defend well enough. I mean, Fordham can't score on anybody. So.
Right.
Nick Loya asked about Boston University Holy Cross. This is the back-to-back that switches venues. So this one goes from Holy Cross back over to Boston U. They will all be wearing masks.
Masked men, that's right.
Yep. Boston U basically was wearing them as chin straps yesterday. If you really want to try to get something out of that, maybe it's uncomfortable for Holy Cross. Maybe it affects both teams' defensive communication because they can't really hear each other in the half court. But I don't have a big lean here. Boston U is missing 2 starters yesterday, Alex Villarino and Walter White.
Yes.
So that definitely matters. White, maybe their best player. So I got nothing here on this one, unfortunately.
I think that's the reason they didn't cover yesterday, Jim. It wasn't because Boston was wearing masks, and that's what people jumped to. They were missing 2 starters, and it was very underreported.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah, I mean, I slightly into the over. I still think Holy Cross is going to run with them, but the number is definitely higher than it was yesterday when I took it like 6 points lower. So I can't recommend it at this point. That's all I got right now. I'll scroll through and get some of the other ones that have been mentioned, and we'll hit them at the end. Sound good, fellas?
Sounds good.
That's a plan. I'll take back the mic here. Big 12 showdown. Kansas at TCU. The Purple Frogs. It's been a team that's been sneaky good relative to our preseason expectations. They're catching Kansas off a terrible home effort against Texas. So you could argue the spot plays well here for Kansas as a bounce back spot. However, the Jayhawks are injured. Marcus Garrett is dicey tonight. Obviously, a phenomenal defender, initiator for that offense. Does so much for the Beakers. Bryce Thompson, their 5-star freshman, is also out. So they are dropping like flies. Ky, do you think that sets up for another potential upset here with the TCU?
Yeah, I'm pretty on the fence with this one, Matt. Ordinarily, I would say this spread's a joke, which I'm sure a lot of people reacted to when they saw, I believe, the openers around 5 and bet up to 6 now. But TCU's been feisty, man. And I've watched plenty of Kansas games this year, and they've looked like at times they just don't know what they're doing. It's certainly a good team, certainly a very talented team, one that can absolutely compete for a Final Four down the road. But they certainly have their lapses, and TCU is such a well-coached team. They're going to slow this game down to a crawl. They should be completely healthy, whereas, as you said, Matt, Kansas might be missing Garrett and Thompson. That's enough for me to stay away. So I agree. Spot says Kansas. Line even leans Kansas, but I can't take it knowing the injuries and just how much TCU mucks up games at home, Jim.
Yeah. With the injuries, my line actually is all TCU here. So if Garrett is out, as you know, it's supposed to be announced during shoot around, I will probably hop on TCU. So it's a second kind of injury lean for me, something you got to monitor. Kansas off a loss. Don't really get excited about backing them there, but they've struggled in Fort Worth in the past. So it's not like they just walk all over Jamie Dixon and the boys. So if possible, I'd like to get that 5.5 without Garrett, but the line's going to crash as soon as he's announced out. So gotta be all over that like a hawk.
Yeah, I mean, if Garrett doesn't go, I'd argue TCU's backcourt is not much worse than Kansas, especially now they have all hands on deck. Francisco Farabello is finally back, played 30 minutes plus the last 2 games. Got RJ Nembhard back last game. He was fantastic. PJ Fuller, and then the freshman Mike Miles, who's been a revelation. I think Jamie Dixon has something sneaky brewing here in Fort Worth. I would put TCU on watch alert, folks.
Yeah, Bill Self had a long rant I saw yesterday on Twitter. Not rant, but just kind of like lamenting his team's lack of. They don't get easy buckets. He's like, we're bad in transition. We don't have a big guy we can throw the ball to. We don't have a lob threat. He's like that. In the past, we've gotten so many more dunks. I think Bart Torvik tweeted that in the past, last year, they were like first or second in the country in dunks, and now they're like 90th. And that matters. You're getting a lot less very easy baskets. They're having to work harder for it, and TCU will make you work hard for it in the half court.
Yeah, and Kansas doesn't have that 3-point shooting barrage that they had with the some of those small ball teams with Devontae Graham. So Kansas very talented, but I think some soul searching is still underway there. All right, continuing down the outline, an AAC showdown between two teams trending in completely opposite directions. We could go on a 20-minute tangent rant about Memphis and their disappointing start to the year. They haven't played a good game since 2000, it feels like. They traveled to Florida to take on UCF, who's been shockingly good this season. A big question mark, though, for the Knights is the status of Isaiah Adams, freshman wing, who's been really good for this team, a team that kind of hangs their hat on the defensive end, but has been surprisingly competent scoring the ball this season. Jim, I'll go to you first. Do you have any strong takes in this one?
I will be playing UCF if Isaiah Adams is in the lineup. He's been crucial for them. The on-off numbers are stark for him. I think Jordan Majeski tweeted about it before last game, and that helped me get off a UCF bet when I was planning to take them against South Florida. But without him, that was kind of a nightmarish performance. And UCF at home has been outstanding. They took care of Auburn, took care of Cincinnati, which, how much do those really mean? But Memphis is no better. They've been awful to watch, against the number lately, 0-3 their last 3, despite getting DeAndre Williams healthy and getting some impact from him. The offense is just terrible. They don't have any goal in the in the half court, and I can't trust him. So if Adams is playing, I would like UCF.
I totally agree, Jim. I really like this Knights squad. I would love to take them against an undisciplined joke like Memphis, especially coming off 2 straight tough defeats. But without Isaiah Adams in the lineup, the uncertainty, I can't in good conscience take UCF. I mean, fading Memphis as a favorite on the road would be terrific because that's a spot they just don't win very often, despite only being a 1-point favorite. Matt, I have no idea why Penny can't coach offense. It makes no sense. Once again, their defense is top 10 in the country, but their offense is holding it back. They might not even make it as an at-large this season.
Yeah, I just don't get why they can't turn defense into offense. They still turn people over. They get a lot of blocks, a lot of events, as I like to say, on the defensive side, which usually fuels transition going the other way. But even with that, propping up their efficiency, they've not been that good. And I should mention, we were hoping that DeAndre Williams waiver approval would help boost them. It hasn't. They've been running in place, snuck by South Florida without Alexis Yetna. That was not a good win at all. So, yeah, the Tigers, you could argue, have value here, kind of akin to the Michigan State narrative as a buy low, but you have to see some evidence and find something encouraging beneath the layers to really buy into that, and I just don't. So it's just hard to stay away from me.
Yeah.
And the last showdown on the outline, an A-10 battle, Davidson at Duquesne. The Dukes, Ky, team you had some money invested in recently in the second leg of that G-Dub game, looked a bit out of sorts. I've been reading some of the local articles about Keith Dambro, their head coach, a coach we really like and respect, very much trying to downplay his team's expectations, talking about how they're trying to still sort out rotations, the pecking order there. I think Duquesne and Davidson are 2 equally matched teams on paper if you gave both an equal kind of runway into this game. But the fact that Duquesne's only played a few games. Davidson's been more of a groove. I think the spot leans Davidson. Kyle, go to you here first. Where are you leaning?
Yeah, like you said, Matt, I made the mistake of watching that Duquesne game against George Washington. They did not look good. Not totally shocking for a team freshly out of COVID. They're still getting their sea legs back. But also, Matt, they were 10 for 23 from the free throw line. I mean, they could have eked out a cover. George Washington is just, not very good this season. Davidson, on the other hand, has been very impressive. In almost every game they've played, 25th best offense in the country. So the Dukes, where they took advantage of George Washington specifically, was on the glass. Weathers killed them inside. That's not happening against Davidson, who's one of the best defensive team rebounding squads in the country. I think Davidson's in midseason form. Duquesne is still adjusting. That is why Davidson is my best bet of the night, guys. Davidson, I believe they actually flipped to a favorite, which tends to happen. So Jim, give me a line, please, because I think I'm delayed here.
There's some 1 and 1.5. It's one at enough places that I think it's totally fair to take one.
Davidson -1. There you go.
I'm on board with you, Ky. I'm right with you. I think Duquesne, they played 2 games and both were against George Washington, which is a completely different animal than the motion offense that McKillop's going to throw at them. That very tightly packed, intelligent defense versus that zone of George Washington. So I'm with you on Davidson here -1. Happy to join you. Let's go Cats.
Go Cats.
I think my cohorts had the winner there. I'm a little scared of Duquesne though. I was fairly impressed with what they were able to put together in the second half against George Washington. I think they're going to be really good. However, I think Ky and Jim have the right spot here to fade them. Again, just a lean for me. No official bet. Speaking of, let's get to our best bets. Jim, you want to reiterate your hammer of the evening?
Yeah, do we want to do a second chat mob before or after best bets?
Let's do best bets first, chat mob close.
Okay. My hammer of the evening. It's not a hammer. It's just a normal best bet. But Alabama -2.5. I think the Tide take care of Florida. Florida's got to see a little more of a tough defensive squad that has really impressed me lately with that identity on that side of the ball. So roll Tide. Also have Rutgers +1.5 and Davidson -1 with my guy Ky.
Matthew, go ahead.
Well, Ky, you're actually next up on the outline, Mr. Outline Nazi. So I'm gonna just throw that right back in your face.
Wow.
But
I deserve it. No.
It felt hard even coming at you for that.
I'll eat the crow.
I'll apologize offline. Go ahead.
I'll eat crow. Oh, Davidson -1. We just talked about it. That's my best bet. Not taking anything else officially on the rundown. Spreads got away from us a little bit. But Matthew, go ahead.
My best and only bet, as Jim teased earlier, Kent State, the Golden Flashes. I'm seeing 2 painted everywhere. I wouldn't go above 2. 2.5, 3 is getting a little dicey. I actually only made the game 2. I just think it's a great spot for Kent. The game against Akron, I thought you kind of throw that one out. It's a weird scheduling spot where they got a last second sort of who they were playing coming out of a COVID pause. I think Kent State's looked really good this season when they've had proper time to prepare. You're also getting Terrell Beck, their second best player from last season, and his second game back, getting healthier. I think the Flashes are really a good buy low right now, and they're catching a Toledo team who's been taking money from our back pockets, but I'm not convinced they're all the way. They're not at this level. They're not super deep, so I think the Flashes are the play tonight. Now, chat mob action. Let's round it up.
Matt, I gotta pump the brakes on one thing. Terrell Beck averaged like 5 points a game last year. He's not their second best player, so he's solid.
He's expected to be one of their best players this year. A former highly regarded prospect from UNLV. I'm a Terrell Beck guy.
I think Terrell Beck could be good, but you did say he was their second best player last year. So I just wanted to say he's not
either second best this year, in my opinion, which is probably not.
Could be very.
They've had other guys step up.
This is just encouraging the Jim hates Matt thing.
Yeah, right.
I won't let you get away with outrageous claims.
Why don't you like me?
Okay. Chat mob stuff. We gotta get to this first because plenty of people have asked about it. And Ky, how dare we not answer it? Mizzou at Mississippi State. Mizzou about a 2-point favorite. I lean towards the Tigers here. I'm not super sold on Mississippi State at this point, even though they've been solid with Molinar in the lineup and a possible letdown spot for Mizzou after a big rivalry win at Arkansas. But I still lean the Tigers and possibly the under. What do you got, Ky?
Yeah, well, this game's the type of game Mizzou usually loses, right? Against a team they quote-unquote should beat on the road, but they end up not beating them. But, Jim, as we've talked about before, Mizzou, they're having they're the team of destiny this year. Yeah. So the Tigers will win this game. I'm not confident enough to bet it, though. Mississippi State is kind of scrappy.
Yeah, no bet. We've also got, also from the SEC, Sam Colmer asked about Vandy at Kentucky. Someone even proposed Vandy money line. I mean, look, wanting to bet against Kentucky is probably a very reasonable thing at this point, but I do think the Dante Allen emergence against Mississippi State is a big deal. Jeff Goodman made a huge deal about it on Twitter, but it does matter. Having a real outside threat, a guy that's a legitimate offensive weapon in the place of Terrence Clark is important, and Vandy's defense is awful. So no lean for me there.
And the three competent teams Vandy's played this year, they've been blown out in all three. Richmond, blown out. Davidson, lost by 20. Florida, lost by 20. So I don't know how you can – I mean, I respect your money line, Gusto. I just can't get there. I haven't seen a competent effort.
Kentucky competent? That's the one,
Their last two games have been fine, right? Louisville, I mean, that was wire to wire, and last game they got the win against, obviously a scrappy, though not very good Mississippi State team. I think there's two recent precedents for you to say Big Blue Nation is trending in the right direction, albeit not on some upward steep slope or anything.
A lot of people, Ryan Dearden, Nick Van T, several others asking about UNC at Miami, Florida. Probably still no Chris Likes for this one, but Miami, other than that, kind of getting healthier across that roster. I lean towards the home dog here, but not going to make it an official play with the Hurricanes. Anything for either of you?
Nothing here.
I lean Canes. They were a good buy low last year when they had injuries. I think it's a deja vu this season, so I would lean Canes for sure.
All right, my guy Ed Redmond putting it on a platter for me here with Longwood, second game against USC Upstate, second to the back-to-back. Longwood led almost that entire game yesterday, needed the crazy three-pointer at the buzzer to cover, but I'm going back to the well. I'm taking the Lancers +3. I think they went outright this time around. They finished the game. Let's go, Lancers. Either of you joining me?
Absolutely. I was waiting for someone to ask so I could add a second bet to my slate. Longwood +3. Let me lock that in with you, Jim.
All right.
Is it still 3 out there, Jim? I saw it got bet down this morning, but it could be back up.
Let me tell you. I see 2.5. Yeah, I guess less value there. If you can't get 2.5, I wouldn't take it. So I'll take it on the show at 2.5. But 2 seems like probably my cutoff. I think they went out right, but I don't want to recommend it past 2.
Yeah, I'm not joining you, Jim, but I am joining you in spirit.
I will still join you, Jim.
Thank you. All right, so yeah, +2.5. Let's see what else. Dewan Turrentine asked if Winthrop runs away again today. I think they do, but the line has been bet up a little bit, 15 and 16. That's probably too high for me to recommend them. But Charleston Southern is so beat up right now. It's trouble time for them. And then 2 more games for sure. Central Michigan at Bowling Green. I don't have a lean here. Either of you have something strong?
Central Michigan for me. That's a bet. That's all I
got,
Jim.
I like
that one on the board, Kai.
What's it at? Is it 9 or higher?
8.5 or 9.
Nope.
I can get you 9 if you want it.
No, I'm not that confident in it, so I don't want that officially. But that's a strong lean towards Central Michigan. Bowling Green's been good lately. That's the only reason I'm cautioning.
Yeah. Coming off the pillow fight that was taking down Northern Illinois. So We'll see against a real competition what happens. Yeah. And then a game just added to the board that I did not even see last night. Florida Atlantic on the road at James Madison, who just lost to Morgan State at home, which was really disappointing. Basically gave up the last 12 points to a MEAC team that was missing its best player. I lean towards Florida Atlantic right there. I think I'd actually probably make them favored. So that would be my side on that one.
I got to see a line, Jim. I just know James Madison is not very good so far this year.
Yeah, they're favored -1, total 142.5. I no take on the total, but lean towards Florida Atlantic.
I'm higher on JMU than both of you, especially they just got Votto Morse back last game, but probably a stay away for me. I just want to see them kind of get into sorts before they get going.
Gardner Webb Campbell, last game I'm seeing mentioned. No Lance Terry probably for Gardner Webb. Campbell ran him out of the gym yesterday. I lean towards Campbell on the number. I just don't think that they should be a 4.5 or 5-point dog, whatever it is there. Yeah, 4.5, 4. Still lean towards Campbell, but not an official play.
Yeah,
Camels for me, man. Yeah,
I lean toward the Camels, but again, that pendulum swing on the second leg of the back-to-back, you got to be careful of that.
All right, I think that wraps it up. Maddie, you want to sign us off?
Yeah, again, folks, we'll plug what we need to plug, SPRodds.com, and the link above, SPRpicks.com. You want content, expert opinions, it's all right here. Click on that URL, takes you right to the browser. It's all there for you. Again, line shopping is key. We'll continue to reiterate that. Thanks for tuning in, folks. We'll be back same time tomorrow. Good luck tonight. Take care.